From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Some important life lessons from the kitchen.
I'm Charles Denny, learning to bake delicious bread and also lessons about service. A tasty and generous food donation here with the University of Tennessee Extension in Robertson County. That story coming up on AgDay.
The cattle market has been on a wild ride.
So even with this drought that we saw, Michelle, just 1/10 of our respondents said they considered exiting the business.
We dive into the state of the beef industry as markets make history.
This is all-time highs. Highest we've ever seen the cattle market for both feeders and fats.
But how long could it last? An update right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the name on the cap matches the power of one's purpose. Pioneer, what's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The cattle market right now is breaking records. And once again, it's all coming down to supply and demand. The April contract for live cattle at the end of last week got within a quarter cent of the $200 mark. On Monday, the corn market was lower and both feeders and fat cattle were also lower. Matt Bennett of agmarket.net says traders may be running out of some of the buying enthusiasm, especially when you hit that psychological mark of $200 in live cattle. But Bennett says when producers start retaining heifers in the winter, it will create excessive demand at a time when supply is limited.
The economy so far has been able to sustain it. And looking forward, you've got to see really tight numbers. So the bottom line is that it's a futures market, and they're looking at what cattle on feed numbers are going to be this coming winter, and they're going to be excessively low once people start retaining heifers instead of putting them out in the feedlot.
Other analysts we spoke with expect this trend to continue for a while.
I mean, we're seeing a little bit around the edges. Cow slaughter is down about 8% this year relative to last year. But, you know, we're not retaining heifers yet, which is a big component we need to do in terms of the cattle herd. So with that in mind, I think that cattle cycle is getting stretched. The lack of feed is definitely a problem down in the southern plains. And as I think forward, capital costs, just looking at buying a feeder at $250, you know, is something that's really going to weigh on the banker. So as I think about that expansion, it's going to be a long time in the future, which tells me that the cattle market's going to stay very strong for a long period of time, at least another couple of years.
And we're going to take a deeper dive into the cattle industry coming up. Michelle Rook has a series of special reports on the state of the beef industry. We'll have part one coming up in just a few minutes. One-time Hurricane Lee battered the New England coast and parts of Canada over the weekend. The U.S. seeing some coastal flooding and tropical storm force winds, particularly in Maine and Massachusetts. Now, the storm kept weakening Sunday, and officials withdrew warnings for the region and predicted the storm would dissipate entirely by tomorrow. We haven't seen the last of the summertime heat just yet. Meteorologist Ben Engelbrecht shows us what's on the way this week for the Heartland.
Oh, Clint, we can get a little bit more broad with the heat or the above average temperatures. Check out this map. Now you see the pocket, we'll call it maybe even a bullseye, right into Oklahoma, where we're going to have normal temperatures. Outside of that, step out of the way. It's tough to find anywhere else, maybe Southern California and Nevada, where we're back towards normal, but most of the United States experiencing quite the warm up with a ridge of high pressure developing September 23rd through the 27th with that heat on its way. Now go ahead and take a look at your screen here. Beautiful shot. This is one of the reasons why drones are so cool and interesting, because you get views like this, unless it was from an airplane, then it's just even more impressive. That's at harvest from Gavin Spoor. Gavin saying this is one day of corn harvest look like in northeast Missouri. Certainly helps when the weather works in your favor. I'll have more on the weather forecast coming up.
Ukraine is challenging Russia's Black Sea port blockade, deciding to send ships through the Black Sea. It dispatched empty ships to collect grain shipments for the first time in almost 2 months now. 2 vessels flying the flags of Palau have confirmed their readiness to use the route to the port of Chornomorsk. The plan is to load approximately 20,000 tons of wheat destined for Africa and Asia. Now, it's a risky move considering Russia has stated it would view ships bound for Ukrainian ports as potential carriers of weapons. It comes after Russia's withdrawal from a UN and Turkey brokered Black Sea grain deal back in July. Although grain has been rerouted via rail, river, and road, Russia has repeatedly targeted key river ports on the Danube with drone attacks. As the Republican presidential race heats up, candidates are continuing to court the farm vote. The latest, Nikki Haley. She held an ag policy roundtable and town hall meeting at a farm in Clinton County, Iowa. Haley telling those present she would prevent China from buying any more U.S. farmland. Haley, a former South Carolina governor and U.S. ambassador to the UN, added that she supports sales of year-round E-15. And she said she disagreed with Republican frontrunner former President Donald Trump on some spending issues. Still ahead, wheat prices have seen some big drops recently. Is there an end in sight? We'll focus on the wheat market coming up next. And later, what a wild ride it's been for the beef industry over the past couple of years. We look at this resilient industry in our State of the Beef Industry special report.
AgDay is brought to you by EndZone from Farm Shop MFG. Rehydrate your soybeans from 10 to 13%. On a 20,000 bushel bin, that's a free semi-load added to your bottom line. What are you waiting for? Call to order your EndZone today.
The Packer is reporting Arrow Farms, an indoor vertical farming company, has officially emerged from Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that company was the first indoor grower to go nationwide with Whole Foods and has recently expanded further with Walmart and Stop and Shop, Amazon Fresh nationwide, and regionally with H-E-B stores. Now, the company says Arrow Farms microgreens currently can be found in over 2,000 retail locations in the U.S. It comes at a time when more indoor farms are launching or expanding even as others struggle. This summer marked the groundbreaking of a huge vertical farming operation in Virginia by Plenty Unlimited, and Kroger announced it would be expanding its availability of vertically farmed produce. Meanwhile, a 5-year-old company called Planted Detroit went out of business, and 2 other companies fell into bankruptcy. Right now, hard red winter wheat exports are the lowest they've been since USDA started keeping records in the early 70s. The University of Illinois looking into this. It says USDA's Economic Research Service has indicated U.S. HRW exports are forecast down 10 million bushels this month to 155 million bushels, the lowest on record. And it says HRW supplies have seen a downturn while U.S. corn and soybeans have gained acres. At the same time, there is more competition globally for wheat, resulting in exports here being less competitive. On top of that, HRW supplies here in the U.S. have been impacted by ongoing drought. So has the wheat market bottomed? AgDay's Michelle Rook discusses that with Kevin Dooling in Markets Now.
Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Kevin Dooling with KD Investors. Kevin, let's talk about this wheat market. Global stocks to use ratio is incredibly low right now. It's pretty bullish, isn't it?
I've never seen this incredible of a setup, since 2007-8, and it's a different macro setup, so we've got to expect different market action. But from a stocks to use, from a balance sheet, from an exporter carry out, it's pretty amazing, and you're not going to see this very often.
So when will the market actually start trading this news?
Well, I think it's going to be similar to 2007-8. In that one, it was a cash-led rally. And it started in the fall, started about right now. And we're seeing demand. We have good numbers the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I don't see any reason that won't continue. And so I would expect the cash market to slowly grind higher for the next couple of months. Doesn't mean we're going to sprint. It just means we're going to slowly grind. And then, by the typical seasonal windows is that, January to March would be a good candidate to see a little more of an explosive move, and that doesn't even count the war. At the same time, you've got a lot going on in that war, and if for some reason Ukraine decides to hit a Russian port or a Russian cargo ship, then look out. I mean, you've got the hedge funds short 450 million bushels. I mean, it's going to be pretty volatile, I think. So
do you believe that the reversals that we scored after the WASDE report, did that confirm a bottom in the wheat market?
Technically, I don't think we've fully confirmed it yet. I'd like to see this market actually back off 10 cents and then catch. And if we can do that and then make another high, I'd feel like we're there. I haven't seen anything yet that says, yes, the bottom is in. Granted, the Paris milling market technically looks better than Chicago does. And that's saying something because that market's got a lot of off-quality wheat that typically bogs the futures down in that case. So, but no, I think it's a good candidate. It's not proven yet. May need a little more time. Those computers like to sell wheat, and they sell wheat against everything else. So they want to do that some more. They certainly can. So.
Thanks so much, Kevin Dooling with KD Investors. That is Markets Now. We'll have more AgDay coming up.
For a free 2-month sample of Kevin's market analysis, or if you have a question of any kind, call 541-980-4554 or email kdinvestors@gmail.com. Your next piece of equipment is on machinerypete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on machinerypete.com.
We saw just a little bit ago that heat is starting to build. We'll call it more warmth as we get deeper into the end of summer and, of course, the start of fall. It's more warmer rather than hot heat. Temperatures this afternoon still in the 90s back and across Texas, and you got a shallow pocket of cold air that is going to be moving to the northeast. And once that exits, that's what's going to open up the warmth in and across the nation. Now, tomorrow morning, still seeing some 50s, but not in the way of what we had last week with the 40s in and across portions of the nation. You see 45 in Rochester. As I pointed out, there's the pocket of cool, dry air that's going to be retreating back up to the northeast. We start to fill back in with the 80s through a large portion of the United States. Again, that's coming up for tomorrow afternoon. Triple-digit heat returning to the map as well. 102 in San Antonio, 97 degrees in Miami, Florida. Again, that's coming up tomorrow afternoon. We flip it over to the precipitation side. The rain chances increasing across the east. This has to do not necessarily with a hurricane, but it is tropical in nature. A weak low pressure system, it could possibly organize into some heavier downpours up and down the East Coast. And that's on the heels of, remember, Hurricane Lee this past weekend, drying out with that ridge building out here to the west. And I don't expect much in the way of significant rainfall with the pattern that we're seeing. There is a slight chance of severe storms coming up for Tuesday. That includes Oklahoma and Texas. Reason being for that is hail, not necessarily the supercells or tornadoes, but the hail threat is still out there with kind of ingredients that we're seeing in the atmosphere. Let's head on up to the jet stream. This is a look on Tuesday. Pocket of shallow, cooler air back up here to the northeast. That's going to exit. We get kind of more zonal flow, so west to east as we go into your Tuesday and Wednesday. By Thursday, this cutoff low is what's going to amplify this ridge right here. One of the reasons why we're going with a quiet forecast through our Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is because of that ridge, not only this weekend, but into next week. Tunica, partly cloudy, high around 88 degrees, low of 59. Sanford, Maine, high of 73 degrees, low of 52, mostly sunny skies. What about Alva, sunny Oklahoma? That is actually the home of Northwestern Oklahoma State University.
While we are seeing record high cattle prices now, it's been a tough couple of years for the beef industry. But a new study proves ranchers are resilient. We dive into the state of the beef industry as part of a special series of reports next.
AgDay is brought to you by AgoroCarbon. AgoroCarbon works with farmers and ranchers to implement sustainable practices on farms and ranches that provides a new revenue stream. AgoroCarbon.com.
The last several years have been tough for the nation's cattle producers. They've faced supply chain disruptions and near record low cattle prices during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and most recently, a disastrous drought. But as AgDay's Michelle Rook reports, in day one of our State of the Cattle Industry series, they are a tough breed and continue to weather the storm.
U.S. cattle producers are coming off a historic drought that caused massive liquidation and pushed the cow herd down to 62-year lows. Yet they're looking towards the future with excitement. The drought cut across a wide swath of cattle country, and for producer Reed Kamak, he lost years of herd genetics built by his family.
We ourselves last year were forced to sell over 100 mother cows because of the drought. And so we see this herd reduction.
However, the low numbers in the cattle cycle have pushed cattle prices into all-time highs, and they could stick around for a while, which has Camac already looking ahead at rebuilding.
How fast we're going to rebuild, I don't know, is yet to be seen. I think we'll see good cattle prices for the next several years as the herd rebuilding continues to create demand for high-quality bred females.
A recent drover survey backs up that resiliency and sentiment among cattle producers, with 2/3 of respondents calling themselves optimistic about the industry and its future.
38% of our respondents say they will grow their herd in the next 5 years, and 49% said that it will at least stay the same. So even with this drought that we saw, Michelle, just 1/10 of our respondents said they considered exiting the business, and 66% said that exiting the business was never a consideration.
He says another 54% of operations are also planning to add a family member in the next 5 years. The hope is this market will finally provide an opportunity for the next generation.
That's probably the most exciting thing for me, is that young producer can look at, do I want to go into the cattle industry? Is there a future for me? And suddenly there is. We're in a position where the cow-calf guy has leverage, and they have the ability to know that this thing looks pretty good for a number of years.
I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Now you can get more information on the state of the beef industry over at agweb.com. Tomorrow, we'll look at how long these record high cattle prices could last and if producers are finally starting to see some profitability return to the cattle business. Well, coming up, some 4-Hers learn baking and giving can go hand in hand. We head into the kitchen in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Purina. Unlock your dairy beef calves' potential with Prime Start, a specialized nutrition protocol to optimize growth and profit. Visit purinamills.com/dairy-beef to learn more.
Like many 4-H organizations, Tennessee's 4-H teaches life skills and the importance of service. And as Charles Denny of the University of Tennessee reports, young people in one community are getting both in one project.
It's a case of learning double skills for Tennessee 4-Hers, how to bake and how to give. These youngsters are learning to bake bread. Here mixing water, the flour, all the ingredients. It's a recipe from the King Arthur Flour Baking Company and taught by UT Extension in Springfield. Oh, sure, there are easier ways to churn out carbs, but for Levi Wicks, here kneading the dough by hand, the challenge is part of the fun.
Instead of like cooking in like a pan or something, it's more hands-on, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, you make it, you like knead the bread.
Yeah, you knead the bread, mix it all around. And when you make something from scratch, it's a lot more cool than just getting it out of the box.
And so we really hope that they learn these great baking skills, and also during this we incorporate a lot of math because there's fractions with baking.
4-H agent Lauren Patterson encourages the kids to let their creativity come out in their baking as they shape their bread.
And it's really fun with this because they do get to make different shapes of rolls. So they'll get to see a few different shaping techniques. A lot of them like to do different braids or knots or just even the classic dinner roll shape. So it is really fun, and they love being able to see what they've made.
Baking is only part of the story here. This is also a service project. Half of all the bread that's made will be donated to people in need. A number of Tennessee communities have blessing boxes like these seen here, where people can leave donated items and anyone in need can help themselves. Each child in the King Flour class makes 16 pieces of bread and then chooses where it's donated, with blessing boxes a possibility.
One of their things that they're taught is responsibility and community service. So I think they'll like that aspect of that, and giving it to neighbors. And we have a lot of blessing boxes around Robertson County, and I'm sure one of them will put it in a blessing box.
Because some people don't have like stuff that they need, like food, and they need that to like survive. So I think I should we should give it to like someone that actually like needs it.
The young bakers did sample a little of what they made, to make sure it tastes right,
And it did. Beyond baking, though, the greater impact comes in learning to give it away. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.